Okay. I am in a lot of groups online. I've been sublimating tumblers for a few years now, and I just want to do a real quick video for the beginners on some of the things I wish I knew, real quick. From the very beginning when I started doing this, I'm a very thrifty person. I'm always trying to save money, and the more money you save, the more money you make in the long run if you're going to do this for selling. For instance, I have never used heat tape. I use masking tape, and this is really old because it lasts me forever. So this is the prettiest little thing of tape, but I just use this. I use 3 tiniest little pieces, nothing big. I stick them right to my table. I've been doing this forever, right at my kitchen table, and I stick them right here on the edge of my table. Don't look at my dishes. And my table's not sticky. I mean, this stuff doesn't leave a residue on stuff. I mean, it will on your cup. Don't let it, don't tape your cup. But I'm pretty simple in how I do what I do. I have my printout. My press is ready. I have a video on YouTube if you're doing the ovens where I use the masking tape to wrap, but since that video, I need to do another one because I'm more into the bands now. I mean, that was a video I made many moons ago, but it's on YouTube under Shelly's Tumblers, and I will update that. I still can use that method, the masking tape method, and I know people really like it, so if you don't want to fight the bands, either way works. I just prefer the bands because to me I can get those bands on quicker than I can wrap my whole cup in masking tape. But I'm doing the press right now. So you got your tumbler in. Every single case you get in, measure it. Measure your first one because that case was it's probably going to be different than the one before it or whatever. Usually they're pretty good about staying the same for me, but every once in a while I have to measure. But I go, well, for those, it may seem like common sense, but I didn't know how to measure my tumbler. This one, for me, it's 8'2", height, and circumference is around the belly. I just go around the belly. 9'3". I already know to do a 9'3" and an 8'2", I like to overlap a little bit, so I add a couple little numbers on the back like I'll do it. I think mine right now is 8'23", so 8.23, and height, and my circumference I think is a 9.45, I think. But yeah, each one's different, measure them. But I just have a towel sitting in front of my press. This is my press. Sorry. I don't know if you can. This is my press. I'd have to look up on Alibaba. I don't know how to say that right, and see where I got it from because I don't remember. But and that's the thing too. You got to get used to your press. I have helped people locally get set up with sublimation, and sometimes I've fought their presses. I mean, I almost think it got to wear in a little bit, once they heat up. I think it kind of gets worn in. But yeah, your press has stuff to do with it too. Now, speaking of the press, what I would have done if this was new, my press, I've already got it set up for this. But if I had been doing coffee cups or something, what I do is before I heat up my press, I stick this cup in there and I just tighten it until it stops. Like I don't force it at all. I just turn them until they stop. And when they stop, they're good. And that's where I leave it. When I heat it up and I put it in there, I do kind of just check to make sure that the heat process didn't loosen it up any. And sometimes it does. But as long as it stops, that's where you want it. Don't force it, because that's another thing. I'll get there. I'm going to cut out my design. I got this design from Etsy for a customer who wanted a graduation. I just personalized it with a name. Um, bear with me here. I have Canva, and because I learned it this way in Canva, for some reason it cuts my designs off a little bit. I don't know if it's Canva or my printer that does it, but I've gotten used to what my stuff does, and you will too. You're going to find your own way. These are just little tips I'm trying to give you that are for everybody. For instance, always measure your cup. That's the big one. Don't spend $1 million on heat tape when you can do this with masking tape. Like I said, I think I paid $1.50 for that roll of tape. Here's a newer one. This one's half gone, but this thing has lasted me for probably a year. I'm not even kidding. And I do cups a lot. I mean, I'm constantly doing cups. Anyway, so yeah, if you're gonna sub, flip it over, let your table be your leveler. Now when I put this on here, you can see that you can still see a little bit of white on mine. I don't go past that. I'll show you why. If you look at that tumbler really good, you'll see that at the bottom it goes in. This has like a little bevel at the bottom. That will cause you to have seams that show. It'll cause you to have ghosting. You want to focus on flat, not tight. As long as this is a very flat tumbler, except it right here it goes under. It's usually pretty flat to the top. But my top, I don't usually ever have problems with ghosting, or never did. I don't have any problems now, but I'm going to take that back. I did have one bad case of tumblers, and sometimes it can be your tumblers. And how you tell is no matter what you do, those ghosting things are always in the same exact spot. That's usually your tumbler. But anyway, long story short, I try to keep my cut right to where it tapers off and to the edge, and that's a flat surface. You don't have to pull these so tight. Actually, tight will get you in trouble because the tighter you go, people are like really try to stretch it. You can cause a wrinkle. You can cause anything that's going to lift this paper up off of this cup is going to cause air to get in there, and then the gas from the ink can't make contact with the cup. It's a gas, is what it is. It turns it to a gas. So any air is going to block it. I get real close, but I do go over. I overlap. Another thing with seams is make sure get my first one on here. I just put that little piece of tape in the middle. Make sure that you're not catching, because sometimes I get really close, too close, and it can catch. Don't let it catch. Make sure it's nice and smooth and nothing's caught there. It overlaps the tiniest little bit. Okay. Like this top, I got really close, but as long as it overlaps and I can't feel it catching anywhere, I'm good. Another thing I do is when I put it in the press, I don't put my seam at the very top. I move it to where it's going to be off the top. The gap. I'll show you. So when I'm sticking it in here, I don't do that. I don't make it like that. I turn it to where it's about sideways. Sorry, I can't see what I'm doing. You'll see that tape's trying to come off. Hang on, I better fix that. Because I'm not doing, I moved it. I'm making this seem like it takes forever. It literally takes me no time to knock out what I call knock out a tumbler. Plus, if you keep that flat, as soon as that first initial press heat hits it, it's going to it's going to stick to the cup. Anyway, I got it in there. My tape's not coming off. I'm closing it. I used to do 350. Well, I have mine on 174 Celsius. I don't remember what that is. 355, I think. But I used to do that 355 for like 45 seconds, spin it 45 seconds, and then do my ends for just a little bit, turn. But I tried burning an image off of a cup one time that just would not burn off for the longest time. So because you can burn an image off of your cup and resub it with a darker image, a video for another time. But anyway, in that process, I learned that you can leave these in here for quite a bit longer without burning them. People think they're burning them, but they're actually just undercooking them half the time when it comes to the presses. Because when I do the oven, I used to put them in the toaster oven until I could see the image coming through really clear, and half the time on these you can't see it as clear as I used to see with the oven, if that makes sense. So you got a little bit of grace. I actually have my press set for my ceramic cups, which is a lot longer, and I'm used to just sitting here, and I know in my head after doing it all these years how long it takes me, but I just sit here for a minute, and I'm sure it's already been past 45 seconds, but I don't care. I always go past the time, always. But then I pull it out and I turn it the same way that my overlap is. I don't go against the overlap. I go with it, and I turn it. I don't do a whole half. I just turn it a little bit and shut it back up. But anyway, what can I tell you? For the most important thing is flat. You just saw me. That's not tight. That's not tight at all. Don't wrap the top of your rim. Don't wrap the bottom of your rim. You're actually, when you're doing that, you're giving the opportunity to curl that or get it stuck in a position and not let the press kind of, put it where it wants to. So when you're pressing it and it's tight and where it needs to be, as soon as you're closing that press, it's moving that, and like I said, it's sticking it to the cup. If you notice when you unwrap these, you got to kind of pull it off a little bit. It's hugging, like the whatever I want to say. It's got a little bit of adhesion to the cup. But if you're putting that tape so tight that you're not letting it, when it does go to move it and it's stuck by that tape, it's going to cause a wrinkle and it's going to cause air to get in there, and then you're going to have ghosting and a bad seam. I should have actually done a black cup, because that would have been, I could have really showed you. Black takes even longer. So I think I did that plenty. After I do these, I take them out, and I just use tongs. I like I said, I'm thrifty. I didn't buy all those heat gloves and all that stuff. Take it out, and I put it at halfway. When I do my ends, it's in there halfway. Don't just stick your tiny little end in there. Go ahead and get it in the middle of where that heat is. I almost wish I could talk to the people who design these, because they put those adjusters in the middle, and I think that's a lot of the problem. I think if some of these companies would just add those adjusters to the top, bottom, like have 4 of them instead of just the 2, then I think we wouldn't have the problems that we're having with the ends with these presses. Just my opinion. I would love to see one with 4 adjusters, get them all tightened up nice and even across, and I bet we wouldn't have to do these ends. But now I just kind of, I kind of flip and flop it around. I'm trying to think of what else I was going to show you. When I first initially wanted to do this video, I wanted to just knock it out so fast to show you how fast it can be. Like, you just, boom, knock it out, don't overthink it. But here I am, I'm a talker. I gotta tell you every little thing. This isn't a full black design. There's a lot of white on it, so I don't have to press my ends very long. I'm not even really worried about ghosting, but I'm just in such a habit of doing my ends. But black tumblers take longer. Like, I'll leave them in there. I'll press it like 2 times the time you're supposed to press it. Whatever you press, I double it. And then I do my ends, I double that too. And they always turn out great. I could not tell you the last time I had ghosting or a bad seam at all. And I better knock on something. And I sell these a lot. I set up, it shows, if you're having like not really vivid, beautiful, looks like it was on the computer on your cup. If you're new, mess with your settings. There are settings you can do. I don't want to say just go in there and mess around. Message me on Shelly's Tumblers, or I'll post it. I'll post it even with this video in the comments what my settings are. But I struggled with reds in the beginning, and sometimes your reds will get a little off, and it's just you're low on ink, and it doesn't look like you're low on ink. You don't think you're low on ink, but if you have converted a press, if you converted it, then it doesn't read it right. It's not the same kind of ink. It doesn't read your ink levels correctly. It's going to tell you you're out of ink, and you're like, I just filled this. I'm not out of ink. Sometimes it'll start printing lines on you. And if it starts printing lines on you, I'll show you right the seam right there. That's my seam. Where, you ask? Haha, good question. But, yeah, I added her name. Where is it? I added her name to one of the diplomas for my customer. But yeah, it turned out perfect. There's no ghosting at all. I got a nice clean line. And even though there's a little bit of white at the bottom of this cup, when you sit down on the table, you barely even notice that. So, let me see if I can, yeah. You can't really notice that there's a tiny little bit of a white at the bottom. But you saw how loose that was. That was very loose. And my reds, they look great. My camera never does anything justice, but yeah, they look great. I see all these comments on the beginning group, and I want to get on there and help people so much. I just love helping because I struggled and I cussed and I went through so much crap. But if you ever want to reach out to me, you can message me. I mean, there's a lot of people on these groups that know what they're doing and all that. But if you want to be thrifty about it and cut corners, because I don't usually ever do anything the way everybody else does. I'm always different. And even with my 3 tapes, I didn't need those big gloves. I just take my nail and tap that tape off. It's masking tape. It comes right off. There's no residue because it didn't touch my cup. But yeah, I'm happy with it. My customers are going to be happy with it. I think it reads backwards on here probably. But yeah, my customers, they're going to be very happy with that. Okay, I'm done. I can't think of anything else I was going to say. I just mainly wanted to help you guys with the seams. And trust me, if you're taping up the top and the bottom, like I told you, you're not going to get a nice clean seam. Well, some people can pull it off. I'm not going to say they can't. There are people that swear by taping that top and bottom of it. Let me tell you, they are pulling the crap out of that. They think they got to get it so freaking tight, and they do. They do have to get it really tight. If they're doing it that way, they better get it really tight because you don't want it lifting anywhere. Like I said, just use my 3 little pieces of tape. Do not tape these, and I let the press grab it and put it where it needs to be. And I've never, since I've done it this way, I've never had any trouble at all with ghosting or my seam. And the first thing I noticed ever was cutting the bottom back. That made such a tremendous difference, huge difference. And then the second thing was stop taping up the tops and bottoms. Like literally, all it took me to make this cup was the paper, 3 little pieces of masking tape in the cup. That's it. So that shows in your profits. It really does. And you think that's not a big deal, but it can be a big deal. It gets to be a big deal. So you want to make more money? Stop overthinking it and don't buy things you don't need. You can go to my page and follow me if you'd like.